Raymond Podcast. Episodio 2. Automatización inteligente. El futuro de la intralogística.
We are in Mason, Ohio, representing Raymond, Mexico, with our partners from Honeywell. Hi, Nick. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes.
Thank you for the space. Could you please introduce yourself for our people from Mexico?
Yes, hello. I'm Nick Sebastian. I'm with Honeywell. I'm the engineering manager for ASRS and line sortation. I've been with the company for over 10 years, helping develop world-class products that are used all over the world.
Perfect. Nice. Could you please explain us a little bit about the machine that is behind us? It is like a monster could be great to have something from there.
Yeah, so the machine behind us is actually our ASRS demo and software development platform. So this is a very small snapshot of what we can do, but this is our development test bed, as well as a place where we can bring customers to see the equipment, how it works, all the different intricacies of the shuttle, the GTP, our product lifts, and we can also even do demonstrations on your own product if you have a special one you want to bring. We've done demos for that as well.
When we are talking about ASRS, we're talking about goods to person. What is it? Could you please suck something about it? I mean, there's like a very complex thing to talk about, but I mean, in Mexico, actually, there's like a huge thing that we need to keep on mind when we are talking about some new operations or some distribution centers too.
Sure.
What do you think about it?
Yeah, so GTP, goods to person. It also falls under GTR, script to robots. Basically, what that's aiming to do is to help the factory worker move products, right? So items come in, they're usually in a tote or a box, and then you move to an order. So your e-com orders that you buy online, they usually need to be packed with other items. So traditionally, people would walk and they would go to a shelf and they would grab those items and then consolidate them into a order. And then they would travel and give those to a shipping area. So it's a lot of manual traffic, a lot of walking, a lot of movement for a human. A GTP helps solve that by bringing the items to that person. They can stay in one spot, focus on the orders, and help drive a higher throughput with less errors. So now we're able to scan items. You can do a little bit of quality control. You can actually see the items there that gets presented. You can see what the order's asking for. You can add visual cues. It just adds another layer of helping that operator increase the throughput without adding more people to the operation.
Okay, when you're talking about goods to person, I mean, we need to think about our increasing kind of operation. If we are trying to accomplish our goals on some new industries or some like e-commerce sales that it is like in constant growth actually in Mexico, we need to think about goods to person, right?
Yes. Yeah, you definitely do, because it takes people to pick those orders, right? So the less amount of walking, the less amount of movement, the less amount of people you need. And if you have the same amount, then you can have a higher throughput, depending on how many multi-level SKUs are in your order. So on average, you see around 1.2 SKUs per order, which means you're only grabbing one item for that order. It's nice for a GTP because it can bring you that item and you just place it in the order and then off it goes to shipping instead of having to walk all the way to a location, grabbing it, bringing it back, packing it, and then shipping it out. Think of all that time savings that operator doesn't have to spend traversing around looking for an item. It gets presented to them at the GTP.
Perfect. So when you're talking about find savings, what are our main points that we need to consider when we are talking about this kind of investment? What are like maybe the key points that we need to keep on mind when we are trying to like evolve to something like this?
Yeah, so the ASRS, our system excels at being a high throughput, high density storage system, right? So we can have thousands of items stored in the same footprint that you would normally stack on a shelf or on the floor. So you have a lot of items that are sitting on pallets and you don't know what to do with them, but you need them to be stored because you need to eventually access them at a later point. ASRS is great. You can take really several depalletization options to get the items off the pallet into the storage facility. From that point, it's a fairly high rate capability as well. We can see upwards of 1,000 partners in and 1,000 partners out. So simultaneously, you can have up to 2,000 pph per aisle it's a very high throughput for most customers when they see what they actually need. So we can fine tune the design to either be higher density, more storage locations, or higher rate, keeping that PPH fairly high. So it would be aisles up to 375 feet long, up to 65 feet tall, and then as many aisles as the floor space really allows. But really the selling point is lots of items stored in the same footprint that you would usually see on the floor, and being able to put those items in and pull them out at a very high rate.
Perfect. So an ASRS is like a very complex machine, but at the same time, it is like too flexible. What do you think that are going to be like the go industries or the main industries that are the ones that are designed for using an ASRS methodology or something like that?
Yeah, so our system kind of excels at being able to handle a wide variety of products that consumers are usually seeing shipping. So your 3PLs, your retail, your e-com, those are kind of the bread butter where the system excels, because you have such a wide variety of product that can be packed by either business or consumer, or maybe it's robotically packaged. The system can handle it all. Anything from, small 6x9-inch boxes up to 24-inch by 32-inch boxes, and then weights anywhere from 2 pounds to 70 pounds each. So we cover a wide variety of things. And what we've seen, items that are going to be stored, the least amount of influence, the least amount of change that we have with that customer's items they want to store, allows us to see to excel in the environment. We don't want to have to cross off a bunch of different, you can't store this, you can't store this, you can't. So the system is designed to be as adaptive and as flexible as possible to store the current gamut of products that are being done.
I mean, it will not depend on the kind of industry. It will depend on the kind of work that you're going to do inside of your operation, right?
Yes. Yeah. So the boxes that you're usually seeing are the, the ones you get from an order that you buy. Anytime you buy something online, right, it typically shows a billet box. So that's what we're trying to focus on, being able to store that across multiple space.
Perfect. So most of our customers are new, like on this environment of automation. So what do you think that will be the first process to need to be carried when we are thinking about implementing some system like this one? What will be like the first step, and what are going to be the follow-ons that we need to go in order to finish with a project like this one?
Yeah. So the first thing you want to look at is your product density, your product SKU mix, right? How many, what's your bell curve of average carton sizes look like? When we size these systems, that's what we focus on. We look at items that are the bulk of what's getting stored. So having that data already tabulated, calculated, and documented really helps getting a good step forward for system design. If you don't know, I mean, that's okay. We can kind of work through it, but the system can be tailored to what that average carton size, what the bulk of what you want to store is going to be moving through the system. And then from there, we can start talking about rate. We can talk about storage locations, spacings of the vertical distance and the racking. All of that plays directly into the product that you want to store. So having that in mind definitely sets us off in the right direction.
Okay, so when a customer share with us like many information that we need to have in order to like design like this full scope of a project, what can the customer can expect from us when we're delivering like some full scope of this new design? What we are going to give to the customer?
Yeah, so usually what we come with is the number of storage locations that you can expect to see, what the carton rate in and what the carton rate out is, as well as how much width, length, and height that space is going to need. To your previous question, past box sizes would also be, how much room do you have? Is it do we have a tall building? Do we have a long building, a wide building? Whichever ways, we can fine tune the system to kind of match the floor space that's required. So using that in conjunction with that'll help us tell us the number of storage locations we have. We can store up to, depending on carton size, back to that first one, carton size will help us determine if we can do quad deep storage. The shuttle is capable of it, but of course it's limited by product size. So smaller boxes we can store 4, medium size is 2 or 3, and then the large ones are 1. So that'll affect the number of part you should store. But if we know that mix going in, we can tell you how how many storage locations you can expect to have for that given footprint that you've aligned. And also, depending on if we don't match your storage location requirements or your rate requirements, we can also fine tune and say, yeah, you need a couple more aisles in this direction. Or if we really had 15 more feet length, we can match that, and it can be a back and forth to help fine tune that system to your needs.
Okay, so you're talking about like at the latest some fine tune of the system. So this system can be scalable. It can be like some increasing when the demands can grow or something.
Yes. So we have kind of two different areas where we can have future scalability in mind. So I talked about aisles can be added. They're freestanding structures, so we can always have the floor space kind of planned to have more aisles added in the future vertically. When we build the racking, we can size the racking for future compliance. Once we can build it so that essentially the top levels aren't used, right? And then come post, we can install more shuttles to leverage that storage locations. And it's a very minor cost add versus trying to remove a rack and install a whole new one.
For sure. So when we're talking about investment, we can consider that this one can be scalable, can be in models, and it can increase depending on the demand that the customer can have in the future, right?
Yep. We can size it for 1-year plans, 3-year plans, 5-year plans, whatever that scale looks like. We can even take the existing system and show you what metrics it can hold at its current, and what kind of buffer we can apply. So maybe it matches a 2-year plan. And then once we get to that 3-year, if the demand is still there, we can start talking about adding additional aisles or additional aisles to it, or additional levels to the top.
So that is right, because we can be prepared for some forecasts in the future, and the customer has like some clear what does they can need in the future in order to invest something more, and not is like only one amount of investment that they need to make like these days, right?
Correct. Yep. All of that's it all be determined at time of design as well. So we could tell you, yeah, you're going to see this amount of rate increase. You'll see this amount of storage locations increase. All that can be determined at the time of design, and then we can choose how much we want to work on deploying and at what stages.
Perfect. So talking about the speed of the trucks or the carts that we're going to use in this system, what will be the rates that we can expect from there?
So the shuttles themselves, they travel at around 5 meters per second is the velocity that they can hit. They're kind of optimized for a 150, 120 foot length rack. That's where you would see the best bang for your buck on the speed size. Like I said, we can do up to 375, but you do spend time traversing the shuttle at those lengths. The lifts operate at a similar speed, and in conjunction, depending on how it's sized, height-wise, and length, you can see anywhere from 800 to 1,000 pph per inbound and per outbound per aisle.
So you're talking about like rough numbers on the last section. So what material type or what can we handle with this system? Could you tell us something about the throughput rates that we can accomplish with this kind of ASRS?
So the GTP has a separate rate component to it. I'll talk about the station on its own. The ASRI system like we have behind us is that, 800 to 1,000 we have an inbound line, and we have an outbound line for each aisle. So that 800 to 1,000, depending on the length and the height, is where that flexibility comes from. That's for the inbound side and the outbound side. So you essentially have 1,600 to 2,000 cartons per hour per aisle, as long as they stay within that 120 feet range. If they go upwards to 375, you could see that change. It really is at time of design, we can fine tune what that rate will actually be. So that's why I'm trying to ballpark it. There's a lot of variables that go into it, but those are definitely the higher throughput capable systems. And we can always, we have the dual carriage lift. Honeywell's got the patent on independent control dual carriage lifts. We can do them at single carriage lifts, and the rates are halved. It's a little cheaper to do it that way. And then if the need arises, we can always add a second carriage lift, and you can essentially double your speed from that.
So that will depend on the configuration, but a fine tune that maybe we can make at the end.
And it's all based off your product SKU size and the floor plan that you have.
Perfect. So To this point, we are like only talk about the hardware system. What about the software? It is designed by Honeywell. What is behind that part?
Yeah, so the shuttle and the lifts run on our Honeywell HC4 local control package. It's our homegrown machine control, PC based. It's not a PLC. It's PC based control. All the shuttles run on their own independent controller. They're able to operate in the event of a loss of communication. The shuttles can still carry out their operations even without that until they reestablish that communication link. The entire system is ran by our Momentum West system. That's our warehouse execution system. It handles where products are stored, what's stored in what location, how long it's been there, the contents of what's there, when that item needs to come out, or when does it need to be stored? Does it need to get shuffled? Does it need to get rearranged? What sequences it need to come out? It's kind of the mastermind of what tells the shuttles. It's basically our traffic controller.
You already mentioned like one important word talking about software system, the West system.
Yep.
Could you explain us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so the Momentum West system is and also a Honeywell designed and developed and tested. We're actually testing our West system here. It's basically the traffic control. It routes the shuttles, it routes the lifts, it controls where the product is stored, what is stored, when it was stored, any expiration dates, if you have food or if there's like hazmat materials, it could classify things that keep things separated that aren't supposed to be stored next to each other. It's kind of the mastermind of where it directs all the shuttles to go to. And it can also help sequence items that come out of the system as well.
So you can consider like the West could be like the key point that keeps connect all the information with the function of the complete full system.
Yes, yeah. The Momentum West system controls it all. It's got browser based interaction, so you can any tech or any operator with a laptop can sign into the West dashboard so they can see the metrics on number of cartons they've stored, what's the throughput of coming out of the system, how many errors, are there any faults. It can see that you can go into individual shuttles and see what's causing the fault. Is it just a misread? Is there a jam somewhere in the system? It gives all that live time monitoring to the operator as well. And they don't need dedicated equipment to do it. It's all browser based, local to the servers on site.
So talking about the information that we can obtain from the system, do you think that we can have enough information to improve our performance across the time when we are using the ASRS and the software too?
Yeah, so the West system does, it helps with real-time correction. It does use a little bit of AI to help fine-tune what gets stored and where. It also has machine learning elements to it as well to help prioritize what items it's seeing are being accessed more frequently others. If you keep those items closer to the front of the racking, you have a higher rate, you have a higher accessibility to those products. So the West system keeps track of all that and making sure where things are, what needs to go next.
Okay. So perfect, Nick. It's like a great information, the one that you already shared with us. Thank you for your time and the space. Hopefully we're gonna be here like soon.
Yes.
Thank you for the info.
Yes. Thank you, Marco.
For our audience in Mexico, this system, it is already available for you. Every customer needs to be treated like an standalone option. We're gonna analyze all your information in order to give you like the best consultancy services in order to you can have like some system like this one already installed in your operations in Mexico. So we're gonna keep in touch. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Marco.